Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. It is Thursday, March 17th. Ian Cameron with you, and we have a special guest joining us today, and one of many times, hopefully, we'll have him on the show throughout the rest of the season to help us break down the NHL slate. It's Brett McLean, former NHLer, former pro hockey player, joining us now, definitely interested in the NHL betting sphere, if you will, joining us on the show as a special guest today on this Thursday edition. I know it's NCAA tournament. People are excited about that, but don't sleep on hockey. It's still my favorite sport to bet. It's favorite sport to watch. And we have a loaded card tonight. 10 games on the NHL slate. A couple of really good matchups as well. So we're definitely looking forward to it, and also looking forward to having Brett McLean on the show with us for the first time. Brett, welcome to the Ice Guys. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, you played, of course, NHL. We for a while, I think almost 100 games, if I'm not mistaken, right? In the National Hockey League?
No, just 18.
Okay.
Yeah, just a short stint there.
Short stint. Okay.
Yeah.
And obviously, unfortunately, your career came to an end abruptly, prematurely. You can talk a little bit about that, but you're doing some work regarding, the situation you went through during that time. Talk a little about what you've been doing off the ice.
Yeah. So in 2012, I unfortunately had to retire. I had a cardiac arrest in the summertime. I was playing pickup hockey and collapsed to the ice. And, luckily for me, the guys that were there knew CPR and how to use an automated external defibrillator, which ultimately ended up saving my life. And, taking something at 23 years old that you never expect would happen to you as a professional athlete, you go through a number of tests every year. And up to that point, it seemed like everything was fine. I wanted to use what had happened to me and try and take something negative, obviously ended my hockey career and turn it into a positive event. So have been doing work with the Heart and Stroke Foundation since then. Installation in public facilities, and then also having people be comfortable using it. So it's been something that's been obviously near and dear to my heart since that time. I think as you start talking to more and more people, you realize that pretty much everyone's been affected by heart disease at some point in their life, whether it's family, friends, or someone they know. So, trying to just use my platform to help out. And if we can save a few.
Yeah, I think we lost just briefly your connection there, but just repeat what you said at the end. I think you're back now, Brett. I think it's all good now.
Yeah, I said, I think it's something that's affected everyone. And if we can save one or two more people every year, it's worth me going out of my way to spend my time and use my platform to help raise awareness. So that's kind of where we're at now, and really enjoyed doing it. Met a lot of great people through it as well.
Yeah, that's awesome work you're doing. And, I think the people, the doctors, the training staff, the health people that work with these teams, they don't get enough credit. I mean, we just talked a couple days, Brett. I don't know how the topic came up, but it was on the betcast that we did the other night. We ended up talking Clint Malarchuk's, almost fatal incident from like the 80s, and the fact that they had to basically keep his jugular intact, or else that could have ended just absolutely tragically for him. And I think those people that, that are working in those areas, training staff, doctors, and being able to care for players in urgent situations such as the one you were in and others, they deserved all the credit in the world, and they deserve to be recognized, I think, for what they're able to do in obviously tough situations like that. So I'm also saw something about the fact that your first shot on goal in the National Hockey League went in the net was a goal. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. Crazy. I mean, when you think about it, I got called up that morning. I got a call at like 5:30 in the morning. I was in San Antonio. And I was kind of at a point where, things were going well. I figured I'd get a chance. So you kind of have a bag ready, hoping that you get a call someday. But yeah, like 5:30 in the morning, you get a phone call. You're going to Phoenix to play that night, travel all day, get in, grab something to eat quick and go to the rink. And I mean, I think in one way it was great because it didn't give me an opportunity to be nervous. Jumped right into it. Lucky for me, my third shift, we had a power play. They put me on the ice, and Scotty Upshall gave me a perfect pass. And as long as I didn't miss the net, it was going in, and finished it off. So it's pretty cool feeling that on my first shot, I was able to score.
There you go. No better feeling. That reminds me of the Seinfeld episode from the 90s. George Costanza is working at Kruger Industries. He's trying to find that killer punchline, that joke, make everybody laugh, and then go out on a high and just leave and say the joke and say, all right, I'm out of here. See you guys. My work is done. It's like you get your first goal on your first NHL shot on goal. It's like, all right, there we go. My work is done for today.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much because I got sent down again the next day. So, um,
Uh-oh. Are you kidding me? You got sent. You scored a goal in your first shot. You're getting sent down. What kind of bullshit treatment is that?
it's the nature of the business, right?
Yeah.
I guess yeah, I was up and down after that for like 2 months straight. I probably flew 20 times, 25 times over the next month, and then finally kind of cracked the roster full time for the rest of the year at the trade deadline. So, with trade deadline coming up, I know it's a time for a lot of guys hanging around in the minors that maybe have had a lot of success. They're wondering if they're going to move on somewhere else or get a shot with the big league team. So, as much as we make a lot of publicity about the big guys getting moved, there's a lot of other players that careers can be changed in the matter of the next couple of days. So it's exciting time for everyone.
Yeah, no doubt. Now, Clint McLean, one of our great viewers and listeners, he's with us most days watching the show. He's been asking me multiple times to ask you this. Has Brett McLean got any Scottish roots? This might be my long lost cousin, he's asking.
Yeah, I do. I my family's from Scotland. I mean, we're like 5 generations Canada, but actually 4 or 5 years ago, we went to Scotland, my wife and I, and visited the McLean Castle. And so yeah,
Nice.
I'm Scottish from somewhere down the road, and kind of always run into different people. The McLean last name that I'm sure I'm connected to somewhere in the line.
Absolutely. There you go, Clint. There's your answer for you right there. Now, in terms of NHL betting, which is what we're here for 7 days a week. I mean, we talk NHL from a betting perspective. We're the only show, and I'm confident in saying this, that breaks down every game all season long and is on 7 days a week. We're a dedicated show here for the NHL betting audience, that's for sure. When did your interests in putting a few bucks down on games begin, and your interest in betting overall? When did it start, and how long has it been going for you?
I think COVID played a big factor in it, to be honest. Before that, I'd bet a little bit on Super Bowl and bigger events when you're with your buddies, and obviously did March Madness brackets and all of that. But game betting and prop betting and different things like that really started through COVID with nothing to do but having time to watch sports, especially when they started back up and we still weren't able to do anything. Still consider myself a pretty casual better. Um, Play some action almost every day, but I don't bet a lot of money at this point. And I splash it around a bunch of different sports. It's funny you're saying for you hockey is your favorite to bet, and one of your most successful. For me, it's probably my worst. For me, football and soccer seem to be the ones that I do well on. Hockey, I try my best, and sometimes it works out, but most of the time it doesn't. I mean, it's the nature of the NHL, right? It's so unpredictable. You got to have a lot of time and energy spent on it, and if you're just kind of casually doing it, you can lose money quickly.
Yeah, that's true. And that's like that in any sport, but especially hockey. And look, I've now been full time for 10, 12 years now. So there were times, Brett, early on, I struggled with it, and now there's so many different nuances that you have to look at and different angles. Scheduling spots are imperative. As a player, back to back on the road, 3 and 4 nights, 5 and 8 nights. Some teams are doing 5 games in 8 nights right now because of the condensed schedule, the Olympic break, the COVID cancellations earlier this year, and they're trying to fit all these games in here in the month of February and March. You got teams playing 5 games in 8 days, and a lot of them with travel involved multiple times, having to fly between settings for those games, those 5 and 8. So it's difficult. I got to be correct there, right? That's a difficult thing for a player to have to endure.
Oh yeah, and I mean, you even look at the grind of the schedule. If you really dive in and take your time, you can kind of see when teams are due for an off night. I mean, you look at a top end team, they go on a road trip, and if they've run through 3 or 4 wins and they're close to getting home, they're always due for a let up. Obviously considering if it's a back-to-back, who started game one? Was it the starter or the backup? Gives you a good idea of what they're looking at for game two. And there's just so many different things. This year with COVID too, it's thrown a whole different curveball where guys have been missing. It's been nice over the last couple months at least to have the consistency where most guys are in the lineup each night. But yeah, I mean, and you look too, when guys go out on the Western Canada road trip, Tampa Bay is a perfect example. They went out there and had no success because that's a tough trip to make, where, maybe if you're going into New York, New Jersey, and New York, I mean, this year the Islanders and the Devils aren't as strong and there's not a lot of travel. So playing 3 road games in a row isn't as big a deal as that Western swing. So there's a lot to consider for sure.
No question about that. All right, we are going to get into this Thursday slate. There's a lot of games, 10 of them, in fact, and we are going to start with one of the better games on this Thursday card. It is the Carolina Hurricanes taking on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Should be a very interesting matchup here with these two teams going head-to-head. Right now, we've got Carolina minus 120, road favorites here, 6 the total, which is currently shaded to the over just a little bit at minus 120 in this one. And of course, the Toronto Maple Leafs searching for some answers with their defense, with their goaltending. That has clearly been a problem area for them the last several games. And they found it at least for one night, Brett, on Tuesday against the Dallas Stars, as they get the shutout win and a shutout in his very first ever NHL start for Erik Källgren, who was very, very solid in net for the Leafs that night. Although, to be honest, the whole team, you could tell, and we had kind of maybe figured that could happen. And a lot of teams do this, right, Brett? The goalie making his first ever start. You want to play well. You don't want to embarrass him. You don't want to hang him out to dry. You want to play good, solid, sturdy, structured defense in front of him. It probably was one of the better defensive efforts and performances we've seen from this Leafs team in quite some time. So now the question becomes, can they keep that kind of defensive momentum going here against a Carolina team that, to be quite honest, I think they're going to be more of a challenge here for the Toronto Maple Leafs to defend this team compared to Dallas. Carolina coming off a 4-2 loss to the Pittsburgh Penguins in their last game. Unfortunate loss for them because you look at it, they outshot Pittsburgh 43-20. They ran into a tremendous goaltending performance in that game from Tristan Jarry, who we know is very capable of that. So interesting matchup here with the Leafs obviously trying to get on a little bit of a roll here. Do we ride the wave with Källgren and the Leafs here, getting even money here as an underdog? Austin Matthews, of course, still out. That's another thing that's usually I find, Brett, it's a bet on angle. Actually taking the team in their first game, betting on them when the player misses that first game, the key player, the star player, one of your top players, like an Austin Matthews. They all rise up to the occasion. Everybody pulls up their bootstraps, tries to do a little bit more. The Leafs certainly did that against Dallas. This is a tough game for me because, Carolina's obviously coming off a loss. I'd expect them to want to play well, but Toronto got a little bit of a little momentum bump, if you will, from one of their better games in a while against Dallas. And do they ride maybe another strong performance in net from this youngster here? Although he's not all that young. He's young to the NHL, but he's 25 years old, Erik Källgren. It's interesting matchup here. I lean a little bit to Toronto. What do you think here, Brett? Side or total, Carolina-Toronto?
I mean, this one's tough. I think I want to lean Carolina. I just think no Matthews. Källgren's second game, I mean, he was riding the highs while getting his first start. They've struggled defensively all year, so to put together another solid effort like that, I don't see it. I think Carolina's got too much firepower, and I'm guessing Freddie Anderson's going to get to start for Carolina tonight too, so there'll be a little bit of him wanting to have a big night. So I'm leaning Carolina on this one for sure.
All right, leaning Carolina, and that's the thing too. Sometimes it was great to take Toronto against Dallas, getting the Erik Källgren is a shutout in his first start. Everybody dug in defensively. Everyone stepped up without Austin Matthews, who's going to be out again, who'll be eligible to return Saturday night for the Leafs. But doing it a second time and against an even better Carolina team is going to be more difficult. So definitely that has to be factored in. As far as the props go in this game, there's a couple that are interesting here from my standpoint. When you look at it, William Nylander, He's gotten 8 out of the last 10 games with a point for the Toronto Maple Leafs. You want to keep an eye on that. As far as goal scoring props here in this one, Aho 3 of the last 5 games he's scored a goal. I think one of the under the radar goal scorer props that you may want to look at here, believe it or not, you can find crazy price of like plus 900 or so with Rasmus Sandin for the Leafs, and even plus 250 with Andre Kasha. Kasha's moved up the lineup, starting to find the back of the net a little bit. And oftentimes these are the good player props to look at, these bargain player props on players that move up the lineup, Brett. That's one of my favorite player prop angles to attack. Someone that's played on the third line moves up to the top line or the second line. They get more opportunity. Maybe they play more on the power play. They get more ice time, playing with better line mates, obviously. So definitely those are good prop opportunities. And I think we're kind of seeing Andre Kasha take advantage of that right now for the Leafs. So definitely some props to keep in mind there for that game. All right, we'll move on to our second game now. It's Nashville and Philadelphia. Nashville minus 170, road favorite, 6 the total in this game. Nashville, nice 4-1 win against the Pittsburgh Penguins in their last game. And Philadelphia, their last game against Montreal, they somehow did it again. Something they've done a million times this year, snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. I mean, they basically got Montreal dead to rights Sunday night. They're up 3-2. Montreal is shorthanded as well. There's a penalty late in the game. And somehow, on a shorthanded goal, Montreal ties the game in the final minute. They end up winning in overtime 4-3. There's just been so many of these blown leads, so many of these just utterly painful losses that just keep on mounting for Philadelphia. We know the situation involving Claude Giroux is tenuous. The fact that he's probably going to get traded at the deadline. The question is where. I know there's an affinity that he has said on publicly many times that he would love to finish his career with the Flyers, the only team he's ever played for. But I think he realizes the business side of it. He wants the chance also to win a Stanley Cup. I think at the end of the day, he'll get traded. We know Colorado. We're starting to think that maybe them trading Tyson Jost to Minnesota is a sign that maybe they're trying to free up some cap space to pull off this massive trade to get Claude Giroux potentially into Colorado. So the question is, where's he going to go? I think he will end up getting dealt. He is playing, by the way, his 1,000th NHL game tonight, Claude Giroux. And from a prop standpoint, that stands out to me. I'd be looking at him to score a goal in this game tonight against Nashville. You'd expect this to be, a momentous type of night for him. His teammates all know that he's playing game number 1,000 in the National Hockey League. So Claude Giroux, plus 250 goal scorer prop. I definitely think that's worth a look. To register over 1.5 points, which is a terrific price in that plus 275 range. I think this is a night where if we're going to count on one Flyer to really have a big game, particularly offensively, it's going to be Claude Giroux. I think they might be a live home dog tonight. Nashville's not one of those teams that I'm ever in a rush to go out and lay a big price with on the road. We saw them lose to Seattle on their recent road trip. Let's keep that in mind. They have had some struggles away from home at times this year, this Nashville team. I'm tempted to take Philly here, believe it or not, in this spot, even though they're not very good, even though they've lost 3 in a row. This is a big price. And the one thing you got to say about the Flyers, Brett, they've been competitive. It's not like they've been blown out and losing 7-1 every night. They've been competitive. Carter Hart's going to be in net for them tonight. UC Saros for Nashville. And Carter Hart not only has played a little bit better lately, but especially at home, he's always been playing better in Philly compared to on the road. So for me, I'd lean a little bit to Philadelphia here in this game at the plus price. What do you think of Preds Flyers, Brett?
Yeah, I'm on the same boat with this one. I think Giroux's 1,000th game, probably his last game as a Flyer. He's been there 14 years. The boys are going to get up for the game for him for sure. So they're going to have a big night. Philly at home is always tougher than Philly on the road. I think I think they're due for a win tonight. I think they're a good home underdog pick. The value's great on that as well. I think Giroux getting a point is definitely something I would be looking at. Maybe even goal, anytime goal. And then, just looking down the list, I think for him, player shots too, he's going to have over 2.5 shots as well. I think like I said, I think he's going to have a big night. He's going to play a lot. It's going to be his last game for Philly. And I think they'll come out on top.
Yeah, I think that's definitely it makes sense to look at multiple avenues with Claude Giroux from a player prop standpoint. I score a goal, which again is around plus 250, over 2.5 shots on goal. Probably worth something tonight in this game as well. I believe that's mine. I'd say even money actually, plus 100. So you're getting pretty good price on that, over 2.5 shots with Claude Giroux. And certainly, I'm even going to go for the bigger bang from the buck with the points prop, over 1.5 at plus 275. Maybe he has a multi-point game tonight. I think he's got a good chance of doing that. All right, we got Dallas and Montreal. Third game on the slate tonight. We've got the Dallas Stars minus 170, road favorites, 6 the total in this game. Brett, I know you get emails from me daily for NHL with the plays that I've got, and Montreal has been very good to me for the better part of the last week or two. I've taken these spots with them as big underdogs against Edmonton, against Calgary. Took a shot against Vancouver as well with them, and cashed in a couple of times. But Montreal starting to revert back a little bit the last 4 games or so. They're only 1-3. They lost the final game of the road trip to Vancouver 5-3, and they got beaten at home by Seattle 4-3. Barely escaped Philadelphia with a 4-3 overtime win. As I just mentioned, they probably shouldn't have won that game. Philly coughed it up late, and then of course they get beaten by Arizona 6-3 on Tuesday night. And I'll be honest, that was a bit stunning because you know how tough it can be the final game of a successful road trip. That's always usually a negative spot or a bet against spot for a team. At the end of a long road trip, especially for a West Coast team out east, especially a successful one. And that was the spot for Arizona against Montreal, and they still got the job done. So it was a really tough loss there for the Canadiens. They've done really a lot of games in a short period of time as well. They will get some big news, though, in net. They have not seen Jake Allen for a very long time, but Jake Allen is set to start in net tonight for the Montreal Canadiens. This is going to be his first start since all the way back on January the 12th. So we have not seen Allen for about a couple of months. They've been going mostly with Samuel Montembeault the last couple months with a little Caden Primo sprinkled in as well. So Jake Allen comes back. I'll get your thoughts on this too when you talk this game. The goalie that's returning after 2 months, is it more rust or are they more sharp? Is it more rest versus rust for these goalies when they're out of action for such a long period of time like Jake Allen's been? How do you expect him to perform tonight?
I think his first 5 minutes are going to be crucial. I think if he gets a few shots early, he feels the puck well. I think he'll settle right in, and the rust will be gone. And he'll have a great night. I think most guys at that level, when they come back, they're ready to go. They're sharp. I mean, they've been working with their goalie coaches, so technically they're there. Obviously it's a confidence thing. If you come in and you get shelled in the first couple minutes and you've let in one or two, then you're in for a long night. But I do think if he can hold down the fort for 5 minutes or so, he's going to be back to normal and he'll be just fine.
Yeah, I agree. And I like Montreal here. I'm going to take a shot at another home underdog, believe it or not. And like I say, this time of the year, I'm a little bit more interested in taking a shot with these home underdogs. Now, I don't like that Dallas got shut out by Toronto in their last game. All right. I don't. That's obviously a loss. They're going to want to bounce back. I'm sure they're going to look to play a lot better tonight against a very beatable Montreal team. On paper, Dallas should win this game. No question about that. But there's some things I think that set up decently here for Montreal. It's not like Dallas has played well these last 3 games, losing to Nashville, the Rangers, Toronto, all good teams. It's not like they lost to a bad team necessarily, but they're having a tough time at the moment. Dallas with consistency at both ends of the ice. Jake Ottinger, it's a battle of the Jakes, by the way. Jake Ottinger in net tonight for them. I think Montreal though could steal this one. I really do. And Dallas is still a very, very tough team to lay a big price with on the road, Brett. They're only 12-17 on the road. So think about that. 12-17 on the road. You got to lay $1.70 on them tonight in this game. So against a Montreal team that I know they had a rough game against Arizona, but the effort's clearly been there under Marty St. Louis since the coaching change. There's no denying that whatsoever. I think Montreal's got a shot to pull this one off at plus 115. I like the over in this game as well. I'm going to keep riding it with the Montreal Canadiens. They can score. Still a little bit shaky at the back end. Yes, Jake Allen is back for them tonight in this game, but when I see a team like them that's gone over the total in 7 straight games, Montreal 7-0 to the over their last 7 games, just kind of like with Vancouver, they had a 10-game over the total streak going for them. I like to ride the streak. I either ride the streak or I don't bet the total, and I'm going to get in on the over here in this game. So, Brett, your thoughts here, Stars Canadiens.
Yeah, I mean, I'm leaning Canadians as well. It's a good price. I think Jake Allen coming back. There's also a number of guys that are, showcasing themselves right now for the trade deadline in Montreal. There's a few guys that are going to be on the move. Um, so they're auditioning for everyone else tonight. And you kind of find at this time of year, bottom teams that have some guys that are going to be on the move. They always kind of have a little kickstart and a little bit of jump. And so I think they're going to have a big night. My only worry with the over is Dallas has been under so many times
Yes.
in a row and they don't score a lot of goals. And I think that's going to continue tonight. They've been struggling their last 3 games. So I think that's going to continue. So I'm probably going to stay away from the total, but I will most likely be leaning Montreal tonight for sure.
All right, so lean to Montreal here for Brett with the Stars and the Canadians here. All right, next game on the slate here: Washington Capitals, Columbus Blue Jackets. We've got Washington minus 200 here, road favorites in this game. Total currently sitting at 6.5 across the board. Of course, Columbus was in action last night against the Ottawa Senators. Cashed an underdog ticket with the Jackets in that game last night against Ottawa. I'll tell you what, if not for Anton Forsberg early in that game, could have been much worse, to be honest with you, for the Ottawa Senators in that game. I thought it was a pretty good road game overall for Columbus, and they got the job done getting the victory in that game against Ottawa last night. So now it's a back-to-back situation here for Columbus back home taking on the Washington Capitals. So definitely scheduling advantage is in Washington's favor here, no question about that. I'm just probably going to look more toward goals being scored in this game rather than a side here. I think Washington's certainly in a decent spot here in terms of the rest advantage. But, the one thing we know about Columbus is they do have an offense. I mean, we have seen that for sure from this Jackets team. They've been pretty solid at the offensive end of the ice, and they haven't totally given up hope on the wild card. I mean, 11 points back of the second wild card spot with 21 games left. I mean, to me, they're not making up that kind of ground. But don't tell them that. Don't tell, Bjorkstrand and Lion and some of these Blue Jacket Boone Jenner. Don't tell any of these guys that they're not out of it yet. And it actually was Merzlikins who was pretty outspoken saying, we haven't given up yet and trying to make the playoffs. Now, they've got to go through one heck of a run to get back into it. But no, I like what I'm seeing from them. Merzlikins was very good against Ottawa last night in the victory for them. We'll see if he's back in net. We don't have goalie confirmations, Brett, for this game yet. All we have is projections that it's expected to be Vitek Vanacek for Washington and expected to be Merzlikins even on a back-to-back here for Columbus in this game. But neither one is confirmed just yet. I lean to this game going over the total because Washington's another one of those teams that's been trending over the total. 5 straight games have gone over for them. Their offense has picked up. Really, it coincided with TJ Oshie's return to the lineup. He came back, and all of a sudden, their offense got a whole lot better. Anthony Mantha's starting to score. There's a goal scorer prop to consider. Connor Sheary has actually chipped in a little bit here and there. Oshie, Kuznetsov has scored in multiple games recently. You always know Ovechkin's a threat to score. So it's been good to see everybody step up because they still have Eller and Hagelin, 2 of their better depth forwards, missing. And as far as Columbus goes, it's Patrick Laine, Bjorkstrand. Look at Jack Roslovic last night. Very good game from him. They've been getting multiple contributions throughout their lineup. So I think we could see goals in this one, 6.5 being the total. I like it over in this game. And by the way, the last meeting with these two teams, which was last month, it was 5-4 in favor of Columbus. It ended up flying over the total. So I think we get over 6.5 here in this one. Brett, what do you think? Capitals Jackets.
Yeah, I mean, I'm staying away from the outcome of the game. I think this is a huge game for Columbus, though. They're 11 back right now. They win, they're 9 back. They're kind of still in the hunt, even though they're a long way out. They lose, you're 13 with just over 25 games left. You're pretty much done. So as early as it is to call it a must win, they're in a must win situation. Obviously, being on a back to back is tough, but yeah, it's tough to predict that game just because of that outline. I agree with the over. I think it's going to be high scoring. They both can score. They both have firepower. I'm kind of predicting. I think it's gonna be 4-3 tonight. I think it'll be tight to the line, but I think it'll be 4-3. So I don't know which way yet, but it'll be a close game with a lot of goals.
All right, I agree with that. I think we'll see goals and bunches here in this one tonight. And like I say, from a player prop standpoint, I think it's one of those games where you could take a shot. Like you can get Roslovic for Columbus, you could get Sheary for Washington, and yeah, they've only scored 2 or 3 of the last 10 games, but you're getting around plus 400 with both of those guys to score a goal. So when you look at it, the math is actually in your favor there. That it actually makes that a decent wager. Now, obviously, it goes without saying, Ovechkin and Oshie for Washington, Lion A and Bjorkstrand in particular for Columbus. I would never say, yeah, don't bet those players either to get points or score a goal. We know they're that good, and we know they've been on a terrific, torrid streak of offensive hockey lately. But you definitely want to take a look at some of these bargain bin prices, and I think that's probably what I'll be looking to do here with some of these props here. As much as Ovechkin and Lion A and them are going to get the attention, you're not going to get as good of a price with them. Again, looking more down the board on the prop market with some other players in that Capitals Jackets game. All right, Battle of New York next up. Islanders and Rangers. We've got the New York Rangers minus 140, home favorites here, 5.5 the total in this one. You talk about another team. Washington's been trending over the total game after game. We've talked about Montreal trending that way as well. The New York Islanders, who I did not bet a single over, Brett, with this team for like months. And why would you? For the longest time, they struggled to score goals. Their defensive game has always been the focal point for them. They've always been more of a defense first team. Play solid defense, get good goaltending, be structured, and score when you need to. Well, this year with the Islanders, well, especially of late, they've scored. Their offense has suddenly come to life here these last 5 games. They put up 4 against Colorado, 6 against Columbus, 5 against Winnipeg, 4 against Anaheim, 3 goals in a shootout loss to Washington the other night. They're scoring goals right now, and they're actually not a bad team to look at from a player prop standpoint. Now, problem here tonight is you're going to be going against the New York Rangers and likely their Vezina Trophy candidate in net, Igor Shesterkin, who's of course had a marvelous season for them. So that's the one part that I'm worried about here tonight, facing the Rangers. And the Rangers, for as much as the Islanders have been trending over the total, the Rangers not so much, but they actually have gone over in 4 straight, believe it or not. 5-2, 6-2, 7-4, 4-3. And Shesterkin did start 2 of those games. Now, Alexander Georgiev was in the other 2, and he is definitely, there's a drop-off between Georgiev and Shesterkin, no question. But there were a couple overs in those last 4 Rangers games with Shesterkin in net. So this is another one where if I'm betting the total, I'm looking over at 5.5, which is a bargain. You're always going to get Islander games at 5.5 because they're the New York Islanders. People don't think of them as an offensive juggernaut, which they aren't. But right now, they're outperforming that reputation. They're scoring goals right now. Anders Lee, you got to keep looking at props with him right now. The captain, he's scored in multiple games. He's picking up points. That's definitely something to consider in a game like this. So definitely, I'm looking toward over 5.5 here. Not so much the side in this game because I think the Rangers, minus 140 is a fair price. I would lean to them to get the win, but oddly enough, the Islander overs have been cashing for me repeatedly, and I'm definitely leaning in that direction here with the Islanders and Rangers tonight. Brett, what do you think here with the Battle of New York?
I think I'm probably leaning more towards some player props. You can always get good value on an Adam Fox anytime goal being on the power play. There's
Yep.
always an opportunity for that. Even just looking down the list, Islanders are one of those teams where you can throw some money on a guy like Josh Bailey at good values, plus 550. Or you
He's
can
picked
even,
it up lately. That's a great
yeah,
point by you. He's picked it up lately.
yeah. And they're a team too where the fourth line contributes from time to time, right? You've got Clutterbuck at plus 800. What else you got there? Cizikas is at plus 600. So you got guys that do contribute more than most teams' fourth liners at pretty good value. So looking at kind of things like that, I like on the shots. It's plus money right now on Barzell at 2.5 shots. So he's a good opportunity to hit there as well. Um, from there, power play. I like to look at power play points with the Rangers when you've got Panarin and Fox on the power play. So looking at both of them to hit the over of 0.5. So Probably more splashing money around on player props in this game than on the game itself.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. Yesterday on the show, I mentioned with the Seattle Tampa Bay game, Tampa Bay's power play had been struggling on that road trip. Really, it had been, I think, 5 straight games without a power play goal. But they faced Seattle last night, and Seattle had given up 9 power play goals in their last 6 games. And I recommended on yesterday's show look at not just player props and points and goal scorer props with Tampa, but look specifically at the power play points because a lot of books offer power play points specifically, and a market for that. And sure enough, last night against Seattle, they had 2 power play goals, both of them scored by Victor Hedman. Stamkos assisted on both. Kucherov assisted on one, Braden Point assisted on the other. And I think I mentioned Hedman and Stamkos and yesterday that maybe look at their power play props in that game because look, the power play was struggling going into the Seattle game, but they're facing a Seattle team that's wretched and woeful on the penalty kill. And usually when it's a matchup where one team's struggling with one thing and the other team is struggling with the other thing, what's going to give? Struggling Tampa power play or the struggling Seattle penalty kill? I find the better team finds a way to get their struggling element of their game to win that matchup. And that's exactly what happened with Tampa last night. So good situation there with some of those power play props in the Lightning game tonight. Might be something to look at here as well with the Islanders and Rangers. All right, we got Pittsburgh, St. Louis next up. Pittsburgh minus 120, road favorite, 6 the total in this game. Certainly Pittsburgh looking to rebound from a 4-1 loss in their last game against the Nashville Predators. This should be a good matchup here, the Penguins and the Blues. You've got St. Louis trying to rebound themselves. They lost in overtime 4-3 to the Winnipeg Jets in their last game. We'll see if they can rebound. So you got 2 teams, both of them off losses here. Tristan Jarry in net for the Penguins. Ville Husso already confirmed in net as well for the Blues. And look, they've been giving Ville Husso the majority of starts here for St. Louis because of the fact that, they've obviously had some struggles lately with Jordan Binnington. The guy that took the NHL world by storm in 2019, leading them all the way to the Stanley Cup that year. And to be honest with you, Brett, he's had trouble replicating that success and that consistency this season in particular. So we'll see if Husso can keep playing well for the St. Louis Blues. Pittsburgh off the loss here against St. Louis. These teams played January the 5th earlier this year in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh won that game by a score of 5-3. It looks like Aston Reese and Brock McGinn going to be out for Pittsburgh. As far as the Blues go, they've got a couple injuries at the center ice position. Do you buy into multiple injuries and absences, Brett, at center ice being a big deal? Because I do. And you got Robert Thomas for the Blues, who's had a very nice season. It looks like he's going to be out tonight. And Tyler Bozak, the veteran center, also going to be missing the game tonight for St. Louis. I find that's a big deal. Cluster injuries down the middle at center. You agree?
Yeah, I think center's the toughest position as a player to replace when you've got a few guys out. I mean, your face-off percentage goes down, so you're obviously possessing the puck less. They're the guy in the D zone helping out down low and kind of trying to help get you out of the zone as quick as possible. So, when you're down 1 or 2 wingers, you can fill guys in, and not to say it's not an important position. It's what I played too, but you don't carry the same weight as a centerman. So I think when teams are down a couple centers, it really does impact the game a lot. And I think it kind of steers me away from St. Louis in this situation. I think for me, I think it's Pittsburgh, but I also think it's going to be an under tonight. I think Pittsburgh's one of those teams that can play a tight game. I think St. Louis is going to try and tighten up a little bit with guys out of the lineup. So I don't think they're going to give a lot. I don't think they're going to produce much either, but I think it's going to be a relatively low scoring game. So I'd be taking the under in this one.
I actually would lean that way here with the under. I like Pittsburgh. I'm going to make that official for me. Pittsburgh minus 120. It does bother me that we've got multiple absences there at down the middle for St. Louis. But in spite of the fact that I like Pittsburgh, and I'll have Pittsburgh minus 120 on my card tonight in the NHL, I still like sometimes to look at props with the other team. So even though I'm betting on Pittsburgh, I do this a lot in many different games. Even though I like Pittsburgh here, I'm not shying away from St. Louis props if I think they make sense. And the person that makes sense right now for St. Louis is David Perron. What he's doing right now is absolutely insane. Craig Berube basically put him back with Ryan O'Reilly Auto Parts, as I like to say. And since then, David Perron, he has scored 8 goals in his last 7 games for the St. Louis Blues. So he's absolutely feeling it. You want to zone in on a player prop for St. Louis in this game? They've all gone through little spurts where they've been on fire. Multiple players and forwards for the Blues. Jordan Kyrie's had hot stretches this year. Braden Shen has had hot stretches this year for them. Well, right now, David Perron is in his hot stretch right now. A goal in 6 of the last 10 games for the Blues. And again, 8 goals in the last 7 games. As far as points go for Perron as well, he's registered a point in 8 of the last 10 games, and he's about minus 125 to score a point tonight. So think about that value. Minus 125 for him to score a point 8 of the last 10. He has collected at least 1 point for the Blues. So David Perron's definitely the player prop to look at here for the Blues. Kyrou, yeah, always consideration. David, yeah, you make a good point there in the chat, no question. Kyrou, 9 of the last 10, he's registered a point. The problem is it's minus 160. You got to lay a little bit more of a price with that, but certainly wouldn't talk you out of Jordan Kyrou. Kyrou and David Perron right now for the Blues. Definitely good prop options for them. O'Reilly, Shen, and it looks like it's going to be, see that third and the fourth line center spot, Brett. That's what worries me. You've got Oscar Sundquist, Logan Brown, third and fourth line center tonight for St. Louis. So that's where we're going to see if they can hold up there against a Pittsburgh team that, can roll 3 lines, and it's going to be a challenge, I think, a little bit for them without Thomas and Bozak tonight. So I like Pittsburgh. Brett likes the under here. We move on to Buffalo and Edmonton now. Next up, the Edmonton Oilers minus 250, home favorite, 6.5, the total in this game. I don't know how much you've gotten a chance to see how many games of Edmonton you've seen this season, or especially lately, Brett, but I'll tell you this. If I'm a coach, if I'm Jay Woodcroft, if I'm Ken Holland from upstairs in the GM box, I'm coming to Mikko Koskinen and saying, you're never touching the puck with your goal stick ever again. Never. Enough of this shit. All right? You're costing us games. You're fumbling around with the puck. It's enough. You can't handle the puck. Are you trying to be Marty Brodeur? Trying to be your teammate, Mike Smith, who are actually 2 very good puck-handling goaltenders? I'm sure you've seen this in your career in the past, Brett. Some goalies just can't handle the puck properly. Some are good playing the puck, finding their defenseman, getting the breakout started, and then there's some that are Mikko Koskinen. They just fumble around with it. They have no sense of timing, awareness, where their outlets are. They get themselves in trouble. They get caught out of the net, and it's an easy goal for the opponent. This has now happened 3 or 4 times to Mikko Koskinen, and it happened again the other night against Detroit. It happened against Chicago. It happened when he played the Rangers on the road earlier this year. He's got to stop handling the puck. Let Darnell Nurse take it. Let Tyson Barrie take it. Let one of your defensemen handle it. Enough. Can't take this. I mean, it's costing your team critical goals in these games. And they got to just say to them, don't play the puck anymore, man. Let your defense handle it. Have you come across that, Brett, goalies that have a tough time when they're wandering out of the net trying to play the puck?
Yeah, I mean, I've never been on a team where it has been to this point over the last few games. Obviously, there's goalies that are way better at playing the puck than others. It's a huge value to a team when you have that ability. And it's a huge hindrance to your team if you don't. But you'll be surprised how much they work on it, and probably part of it for him right now is a confidence thing as well. You're hesitating making the wrong play now because you're thinking about all the mistakes you made over the last few games. So, yeah, I'm sure the messaging there is, leave the puck as much as you can, grab it on the rim to make sure they don't get to sustain some forecheck, and just leave it for your D to make the plays, and you get back in the net and keep it simple for right now. But it's been an adventure, and I'm sure for Oilers fans, it's been a scary couple games watching him when he's got the puck.
Yeah, no question. I mean, it's a chore for Mikko Koskinen to make saves consistently, let alone playing the puck. I mean, focus on that. Stop the puck. Focus on that. Let that be your one main objective. Don't worry about having to play the puck all the time. As far as this game goes, look, I got to give the Buffalo Sabres credit. This Edmonton team, Brett, they've got to be on alert tonight because, the Buffalo Sabres, the effort for them, I've liked it for the most part the last few games. They're actually 4-2 in their last 6 games, this Buffalo team. They've got a couple of wins against Toronto, who they always seem to play tough against. They beat Vegas 3-1 when Jack Eichel made his return to Buffalo to play the Sabres for the first time. They did have a couple losses. LA shut them out 3-0, and Florida handed it to them 6-1. But overall, I like what I'm seeing here from this Buffalo Sabres team right now, and the job they're doing in terms of being competitive. And you look at their offense, they got shut down by Florida and LA, but they scored 3 against Vegas, 5 against Toronto. More than anything here, and the Oilers seem to be still having these lapses defensively at times. They really ironed it out in the first few games under Jay Woodcroft after he took over from Dave Tippett. And the first few games, it's like, whoa, look at this team defense. Look at this structure. This looks like such a different and better Oiler defense. And now all of a sudden they're kind of reverting back to their old ways a little bit. This to me looks like a game where I could target maybe a team total on Buffalo at just 2.5 at even money, -110. Just ask Buffalo to get 3 goals. And the nice thing about the team total bet is you don't have to worry about Buffalo winning the game. Because do I trust Buffalo to win the game? Maybe not so much, but can I trust them maybe to score 3 goals? We've seen Edmonton gave up 5 to Detroit. They gave up 3 to Washington, 3 to Calgary, 5 to Montreal, 4 to Chicago. They did hold Tampa Bay to 1 goal in that game and carried the play to the Lightning. But, I like what I'm seeing from Buffalo. I like what I'm seeing. They got Casey Middlestat back. That top line's dynamic. Say what you will about the rest of the team. There is a drop-off, but you can't argue with the results we've seen from Alex Tuch, Jeff Skinner, and Tage Thompson. They have been absolutely terrific, that trio for Buffalo. And, with defense still a question for Edmonton, with Mikko Koskinen, who had a nice run for a bit, and then he's getting lit up for 5 the other night by Detroit. You're definitely seeing a situation where I could see Buffalo getting 3 goals. So I lean full game over here, but I'm definitely going to also be on that Buffalo Sabres team total in this game, over 2.5. I think they can get there with 3 goals against this Edmonton team, which still at times struggles to keep the puck out of their own net. And they miss Chris Russell. Chris Russell's a shot blocking machine. He's good in his own zone. He's very good at clearing the front of the net. They've been without Chris Russell for a while, Edmonton, and he's always been one of their better, just stay at home, shut it down defensively type of blue liners. And they definitely miss him there with this Oilers team. Brett, what are your thoughts here? Buffalo, Edmonton.
I really like the over in this game. I think it's going to be high scoring. I think the Oilers now, they're starting to roll a little bit and get themselves back in the playoff picture here. So this is a game they can't afford to lose. The value isn't really there on the money line, but on the puck line, I think they're going to win this one by more than 1. I think they're going to win by 2 or 3. I think you're looking at a really high scoring game. So I like the over, and I like the Oilers -1 and 1.5 too.
And the Oilers on the puck line then as well to take care of business here against Buffalo tonight. A scrappy Buffalo team, though. I give them credit for the way they've played. They've been competitive more often than not. We'll see if they can be that way once again tonight for them. As far as the goaltending for Buffalo tonight, let me just see. It's actually going to be Mike Smith for Edmonton confirmed. So not Mikko Koskinen. Just I want to confirm that because I checked it about right before the show. They hadn't made an announcement yet who was going to be in net. It is going to be Mike Smith. So again, let's see what he hasn't played in a while. He hasn't played really good in any recent starts. So that's why I think it opens the door for Buffalo here in this game offensively tonight against this Edmonton Oilers team. And it's I think the fact too that if we saw Koskinen give that puck away, struggle in terms of keeping the puck out of the net against Detroit, I think it's basically forced Jay Woodcroft's hand a little bit. Like, hey, let's give Mike Smith a look tonight and see what he can do. You're of the camp, Brett, too. Like I'm sure everybody else. If Edmonton can try to upgrade the goaltending position, they probably need to at this point, don't they?
Yeah, they're not going to compete with Calgary and Vegas in the playoffs with the goaltending they have. Everyone tightens up a little bit in playoffs. You can't count on McDavid and Draisaitl to put up 2 or 3 points a night. Evander Kane's been on fire lately, but is that going to last long term? They just don't have, no one has enough firepower to make a run with the goaltending they have. And I think you're looking at, we're year 6 or 7 of McDavid and Draisaitl, and they don't have a lot to show for it. So at some point they're going to have to pull trigger on a big time goalie and give themselves a chance. And it might be now or it might be never.
Yeah, no question. That there's a bunch of teams in that predicament right now. The Toronto Maple Leafs might be thinking about that. Although, again, I think team defense and getting blue liners might be even more important. Getting a big time blue liner at the deadline might be more important for Toronto than just doing away with Jack Campbell and Mrazek and giving up on them. I think they need help along that blue line. They miss Muzzin too. Jake Muzzin's a very, very solid defenseman. He's actually someone that'll put someone on their keister in front of the net. There's not many of those Leaf blue liners that'll do that. Jake Muzzin will, and they miss him. He's been out for some period of time. All right, San Jose Sharks, Los Angeles Kings. We've got LA minus 150, home favorites here, 5.5 the total in this game. Brett, I've learned my lesson. You can't bet LA against San Jose. You can't do it. They just cannot beat this team. They couldn't beat this team when they were a lot healthier the last time they played them. And now the injuries have clearly mounted for this LA Kings team. It's so awful to see it because this team's making noise. They're right in the thick of it in the Pacific Division right now with Calgary, with Vegas, with Edmonton, with all of those teams. They're right there, LA, and now they're being besieged by injuries right now, and it's unfortunate to see it. Drew Doughty, Alex Edler, Matt Roy, Sean Walker, that's 4 starting blue liners, starting defensemen out. You've got Athanasiou, Victor Arvidsson, Dustin Brown, all missing up front. So there's definitely a shorthanded, depleted LA Kings team. And they fought the good fight without all of those players, somehow upsetting Florida in that first game where they were missing all of these guys. And they beat Florida 3-2 in a shootout. But they couldn't sustain it against Colorado. The Avalanche pretty much control that game start to finish against the shorthanded Kings, and they win that game 3-0. So it's difficult for me to take LA right now and lay a price with them shorthanded. And plus the fact they just don't beat San Jose. And I don't like San Jose very much. I don't think there's a very good hockey team, but somehow, some way, the one thing they get right is beating the Los Angeles Kings. They beat them back-to-back games just last week, beat them 4-3 in LA in overtime, and then shut them out 5-0 in San Jose. And they have won 6 of the last 7 head-to-head meetings against the LA Kings. And they do have James Reimer back. I don't know if Florida made him look good or if he played well, but you got to give him credit. He played extremely well against the Panthers. Got a little fortunate, couple of posts there in that game, but he played well, even though Florida pulled it out in overtime. Could have been worse if James Reimer doesn't play well in that game for the Sharks. And, you look at the way they've played since that 8-0 beatdown they suffered against Nashville. 2-2, and the losses were competitive. 3-2 in overtime to Anaheim, 3-2 in overtime to Florida. So this is a Sharks or pass situation for me, Brett. I'm not laying a price with LA against a team they've been dominated by, and with the injury situation that they're dealing with. What do you think here, Sharks Kings?
Yeah, I'm going Sharks as well. Plus money, can't go wrong there. I think also Sharks over 2.5 is a pretty safe bet. And then it's a small play, but I think Hurdle to score is anytime score is a good play for tonight. Just signed a big deal yesterday. He's
Yes.
feeling good about himself.
Yep.
So I like that play as well. So everything heavy Sharks tonight would be what I'll be doing.
It's hard to argue. When I watch this, I'm probably going to end up on San Jose as well before puck. It's not going to be my favorite play tonight, but I'm going to end up on it. Watch this be the night LA ends up finally beating them, because that's the way sometimes it works. Like, I've taken LA in every recent game against San Jose. I took them in the game where they lost in overtime, and I thought, oh, revenge spot. They're still better than San Jose. And then the injuries they suffered like 3 injuries. 3 players left that game due to injury. They ended up losing 5-0. So now I'm going to flip the script and go the other way and take San Jose tonight. Now, this will be the night now LA steps up and wins. Hopefully not for the both of us, Brett, but that's the kind of things you fret about as a bettor, because I've been doing this for 10, 12 years. Seems like when I take a team and then a couple of times against one team, there's always those instances where I turn around and then go with the other team the next time they play them. And then it's a day late and $1 short. So we'll see what happens there with San Jose, LA. All right, we got 2 games left. Detroit, Vancouver. Next up, Vancouver minus 200, home favorites, 6 the total in this game against the Red Wings. Boy, the Red Wings continue to just be dreadful defensively. I mean, it's been this way now for a while. You got to wonder, too, like Jeff Blashill, the head coach of this Detroit team, is like the cat with 9 lives. There's people that thought he might have been axed 2 years ago, might have been relieved of his duties after last year. And now this year, to see just the defense cave, this is definitely not showing well on him. right now at the moment, what we're seeing from this Red Wing defense. But they've been absolutely brutal. They've had these crooked numbers basically hung on them in multiple games of late. You've got to be some kind of bad defensively when Arizona's rolling into the pizza box there, Little Caesars Arena, and putting a 9 spot on the board against you. 9-2 recently. Minnesota, they get 6 goals in a shootout win. Don't be fooled by the 3-0 loss to the Calgary Flames, Brett. If you watch that game on Saturday night, that was Thomas Greiss playing way over his head, way over his level, and that could have been 6 or 7-0 for Calgary. The shots were 43-19 for Calgary in that game. They could have had a lot more than 3 goals. And it was one of those nights where, sometimes have these as a player, Brett. The puck's just not going in for you. You fan on a shot, you dub a shot, you miss a wide open net or two. Calgary had those kind of chances against Detroit and just flat out missed them. So it was kind of, they got away with it, that Detroit only gave up 3 in that game. And sure enough, they give up 7 to the Oilers in that 7-5 loss the other night. I mean, they're just struggling with their defensive game right now. They're absolutely breaking down left and right. Odd man rushes. Rush chances are killing this Detroit team right now. Stretch passes are killing this Detroit team right now as well. They just, it seems like they don't know that teams are going to try to stretch, hit the stretch pass and get the forward behind the defense. They're just giving up too much room and space. That's been a consistent problem here for Detroit. I don't know what's going to change here tonight. I mean, there's been multiple games in a row now where this team has just been absolutely atrocious, at the defensive end of the ice. And now you got to face a Vancouver Canucks team that's entering in with some momentum after snapping a 2-game losing streak, beating New Jersey 6-3 on Tuesday night. We'll see if they can keep it going here. But this is pretty much, for me, a multiple bet type of game here, Brett. I like Vancouver in regulation, which you can get at a pretty good price here. You can bet it down to more toward even money in this game. Vancouver in regulation, you can get that at around -125, -130. I think the Vancouver team total over is definitely something I'm going to look at here. Over 3.5, -125. I mean, betting the opponent team total against Detroit, it's been a pretty good way to go lately. And I think the full game over can get there. Keep in mind, Vancouver, Brett, they are 11-1 to the over in their last 12 games. 11 of the last 12 Canuck games have gone over the total. So for me, this is Canucks and reg, Canucks team total over 3.5, and full game over 6 for me against Detroit. What do you think, Brett?
Yeah, I think for me, I don't have a lot of faith in Detroit right now. So over for sure in the game. Canucks over. I like JT Miller over 1.5 points. It's at plus money right now.
I've been hammering that home for weeks on this show, Brett. The JT Miller over 1.5 points at a plus price, and he just keeps on delivering it more often than not.
Yeah, I like that play. Looking through, trying to look down a list of a guy that might, you have the same thing as what I said with Adam Fox. You have Quinn Hughes. He's got decent money for an anytime goal because they're going to have power plays. They're going to have chances, and he can put one through as well. I even like for a game like this, maybe throwing some money on JT Miller to get the first goal at plus 1,000. I mean, I think Vancouver's going to come out and put up some goals early, and I think he's rolling right now, and obviously he's a great player. So he's a guy that you can take a quick shot there and see if he can get you some quick money early.
Yeah, this is some remarkable production right now that we're seeing from JT Miller. I'll rhyme this off here. He had 3 assists, 3 points against Jersey. His quiet game lately was Tampa, where it was kind of a tight checking game. Tampa meant business. They weren't screwing around. The Lightning, they lost 2 in a row before they played Vancouver, and they played a really good game defensively. And Vasilevsky needed a bounce-back game, Brett, because he didn't play well against Calgary. He didn't play well against Winnipeg, and he played a lot better against Vancouver. That game, JT Miller only got a point, but it was a goal, and it was the only goal for Vancouver in that game. And then before that, 2 points against Washington, a goal, 3 assists, 4 points against Montreal, a goal and an assist against Toronto. So you get my point. He's been getting 2+ points in the majority of recent games. It's a great bet. It's a great price. He keeps on finding a way. It seems to have these multi-point games, and he's just been absolutely dynamic and a beast, as Raymond Reddington in our chat says. Absolutely 100% right. That's a good way to describe JT Miller's play right now. A beast, really, for the Vancouver Canucks. He's been absolutely outstanding. All right, final game now of this Thursday NHL card, and this is one of the more intriguing games of the night. Even though Vegas is slumping, still one of the games where you're talking about one of the best teams in the NHL, Florida Panthers, taking on the Vegas Golden Knights, who return home off a humbling road trip, one that ended in total disaster for them. We'll see if they can right the ship here. Florida, minus 170. Road favorites in this game. The total 6.5 across the board. I'll tell you what, Brett. It's difficult to bet on Vegas at the moment. I took a chance with them against Winnipeg. I thought Chandler Stevenson, that his words were going to resonate. He basically, after they lost to Columbus, Brett, in the post-game press conference with the media, said, "We need to look ourselves in the mirror. We need to grab our nutsack, and we need to start playing." He was basically very, very public with his remarks, saying we need to get going here, and they didn't get going following those remarks from Chandler Stevenson against Winnipeg the other night. They had a decent start, but they didn't find the back of the net. Winnipeg ended up getting the first goal. And then you can tell it's a crisis of confidence with this team. The roof kind of caved in after that against the Jets, and they never rebounded from that shaky start where, they had a good start, but yet Winnipeg's quickly up in that game, and they end up losing 7-3. So it's 5 losses in a row for the Golden Knights, a winless road trip, and they lost to some, below average teams too, Philly and Buffalo. They lost to those 2 teams to start the road trip. Then they lost to Pittsburgh, Columbus, and Winnipeg, the last 3 of that road trip. Do you think, I'm going to ask you before we get into this game fully, do you think there's still a good team in the Vegas Golden Knights? Do you think when they get everybody healthy, Brett, they can still be a force in the Western Conference, still be a Stanley Cup contender? Because I will point out right now, what are you going to do if you're Vegas when you've got Mark Stone out, Max Pacioretty out, Riley Smith out, 3 of your top 6 forwards. You've got 3 critical starting defensemen out, Nick Hague, Alec Martinez, Braden McNabb, who's one of the more underrated blue liners, I think, right now in the NHL. Your number 1 goalie, Robin Lehner, is out as well. That's a lot of shit to have to replace. That's a lot of production. That's a lot of key components to your hockey team. Is this Vegas team, they all of a sudden not good, Brett, in your opinion? Or is this just a product of they're just missing too many pieces right now?
I just think they have too many guys out. I think they're a team that they're going to have a real challenge right now, I think, to make the playoffs. But if they make it, people are going to be very nervous to play them if guys are back. They're just in a tough spot. I don't think they're going to make a lot of moves. I think a lot of their movement will be internally with guys coming back, because I think they still like their roster heading into next year, heading into the future. So there's no point in blowing it up if things don't work out. But I think the real challenge is, can they hang on here over the next couple of weeks until they start getting bodies back? Because if they keep dropping the way they are, they're going to be chasing a playoff spot when, a month ago they looked comfortably like they were going to sit into second or third in the Pacific and make some noise in the playoffs. So I guess we'll see how it goes from there. I don't see them beating Florida tonight. I think they just have too many guys out. Florida's team is too strong from top to bottom. I don't think there's another team in the league from first line to fourth line, number 1D to 6D, that comes at you the way Florida does right now. So that one, I think they're going to win. On the money line, obviously not great value. So if you're looking for other things in the game, the total for me, I mean, Florida can score a lot of goals, but hesitant to take the over just because you don't know with Vegas with a lot of injuries what's going to happen. One of the bets I was looking through, similar to what we talked about before, power play points for Barkov and Huberdeau, both plus money to get over 0.5. And probably for me, that's one of the safer bets. They have a great power play. If they get a couple opportunities, I see those guys both putting up either a goal or an assist on the power play.
Yeah, this is really remarkable with Barkov. Yeah, and I lean Florida in regulation as well. This is kind of like the San Jose LA game, part 2 for me on the card tonight, where I bet against San Jose the last time they played LA, And now I feel like I'm going to probably be taking San Jose. I hope now I don't, get bitten by that. And it's kind of like with Vegas. I took them against Winnipeg. I thought it was a good spot. I thought even with the injuries, they'd have a dig down deep, have a big team effort, beat Winnipeg, who are up and down, inconsistent. It didn't happen. And now I feel if I take Florida tonight in regulation, now watch Vegas just rise up at home and find a way to win. I'm worried about that a little, but to me, it's still Florida or pass. Like I cannot take Vegas right now. I just can't. And not the way they're playing right now. Florida, if they play like they did against San Jose the other night, Brett, Vegas can beat Florida. Florida was kind of lethargic. They didn't exactly play at their best, not even close to their best game against San Jose. And we were on the BetCast Tuesday night live watching all those games, and a lot of us were saying the same thing. It just didn't look like Florida was sharp. Passes weren't tape-to-tape passes weren't working. Just the movement in the offensive zone wasn't there. Shots weren't getting through to the net. Just a lot of overpassing. Just not. You could tell the team was just not executing at a high level, a sharp level in that game against San Jose. So hopefully they can improve that tonight a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a tough game. This is a tough game to bet on. This is a fun game to watch
Yeah.
and see what happens, but it's a tough game to bet on because obviously Vegas with so many guys out, but they are a great team at home. Both teams haven't been playing great as of late, so it's kind of one of those games where anything can happen, and you could go into a bet feeling really good and get everything wrong, or it could be a night where everything lines up perfectly if it goes the way you think. So probably out of all the games on the card, this is the one that I will avoid the most. Just I don't really like a lot of it. If like I said, if anything, I'd probably do a Barkov and Huberdeau on power play points and leave it at that.
Yeah, exactly. Barkov over 1.5 points. 6 of the last 10 games, he's gone to 2+ points, and you can still get his over 1.5 points plus 175 with the price on that in a lot of different books. So shop around. We always stress here on the Ice Guys Show, make sure you have multiple books because you're going to get better prices with certain bets. The more options you have at your disposal, it's very important, no question. But definitely, it's a bet that I've been betting a lot lately. Barkov over 1.5 points, and Mason Marchment. He has been someone I've cashed, Brett, a couple plus 500 goal scorer props on this guy the last month or so, and he's just stepped up. He's taken advantage of the opportunity. He's one of those guys that does a little bit of everything, right? He's a good forechecker. He's got a physical element. He tries to be like his dad every now and then, Brian Marchment. Drop the gloves every now and then as well. But no, he's a good offensive player for the Panthers. His offensive game keeps evolving, and I think Mason Marchment is going to continue to offer some value in the prop market, even though he's now on the third line with Lusterinen and Duclair. You mentioned Huberdeau. He's heating up now. Barkov, though, is definitely the focal point. Verhaeghe's actually scored in multiple games lately, too, on that top line playing with Barkov. So Carter Verhaeghe might be a goal scorer prop to consider here in this game. Now, you might have seen me typing a little bit just throughout the show. I've got someone from plays overseas basketball, played at Northeastern in college basketball, Matt Janning. He's betting some stuff now. He's sending me some EuroLeague basketball picks. So I'm trying to lock those in, and they're off to a great start. So both those bets. So shout out to Matt Janning for sure. Brett, I'm involved in everything. Like what you're mostly football, you said, hockey and soccer. How about basketball? Like is March Madness of interest to you, or you don't give two shits?
Yeah, no, I'm into March Madness. I mean, I do a number of brackets, and then some smaller plays as the day goes along. Like I have Longwood right now, plus 18 in the game, and
I do too.
they're
Let's
down
go
by one.
Lancers.
Yeah, so that one's looking good. I have them in a parlay with Connecticut -6, and then North Carolina just to win right now. But yeah, I mean, basketball is tough for me. I don't watch a lot of college basketball. Then I jump into it at March Madness and think I know everything and lose more than I win. But for me, football and soccer, I do English Premier League, I do Champions League, and then obviously Canada doing so well at CONCACAF did me really well over the last couple of months because the payout on the Mexican win and the American win were great. So yeah, hockey's probably my weakest of the three of those sports, but I'm obviously been a part of the game for a long time, watch a lot of hockey, and hopefully it can start to translate into a little bit more success for me moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. So you're a multi-sport, multitasker when it comes to sports betting. I love it. The more, you're involved in a bunch of different sports, as am I. And the one thing I really try to do here on this show and on Twitter at Bobano, I try to be honest with people. I have no respect for people that are losing but lying about it. Sports bettors and sports handicappers that just aren't being truthful. They're saying they're 20-1 in their last 21 plays, and that couldn't be further from the truth. You'll always get me being transparent and honest. And I'll be honest when it comes to college basketball. This has been a struggle. It's not been a great season for me in college basketball. I'm down, what is it, 10 units going into the tournament in college basketball. But why am I confident? Because I've had good NCAA tournaments, Brett, in recent years. And I'm hoping I have one this year. And if I have one this year, I'll get back into profit. And that's my goal. You don't give up, right? When you're going in a funk scoring goals as an NHL player, or you're going through a funk, swinging and missing in baseball and you're striking out a lot, you don't give up. You keep working, you try to make some adjustments and you try to get better and you try to get better results. So that's the way I look at it with college basketball. It's not been the season I was hoping for, but I hope that in the NCAA tournament, we'll have a good tournament and we'll get back into the black here with the and get back to plus units. That's definitely the goal. I've had a great NBA season for sure, and NHL's been very strong. I had a terrible October in the NHL, and ever since then, it's been a great, profitable NHL season. How about NBA for you? Are you involved with that?
I do a little NBA. I find NBA for me is tougher. I'm not.
You mean you
I'm not.
don't like the last minute player in and out
Yeah,
with
no,
so many of
that's
these
tough for
games?
me, and I'm not a. I mean,
You don't
I'm a
say.
Raptors. I'm a Raptors fan, especially after they've won. But I'm not a diehard NBA fan, so I don't know enough on who's in, who's out, player management, and not. And I find there's less value on money line, so you're trying to parlay a couple games together to make money, unless you really know what you're doing. And it seems like if you pick 3 or 4 games, there's always one game that doesn't go the way you expected. So I don't do a lot of NBA. Just it's not a big passion of mine, and I try and stick to sports that I'm a fan of because you generally have more knowledge that way. And I don't like to bet on too many things that I'm not watching. I find it makes it more exciting, or something I'm doing with my buddies and can talk about it more than just kind of throwing money at something that maybe I'm not really going to pay attention. That's where I'm
Yeah.
at as a better right now. It's more of a casual thing, so I like to do it in a way that I'm going to either enjoy watching or do it with my friends and chat about it. So the NBA is not really on my radar these days.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe at playoff time, but even then, it'll be lukewarm, if anything, for you. So it's kind of like you're basically saying, for instance, for me, it would be something like cricket. Like I never watched cricket. I couldn't care less about following that sport or watching it for a single second. So I'm not really going to bet it or handicap it or do anything like with it like that. It's kind of like for you. Like if I'm not interested in the sport or I'm not going to spend time watching it, then I'm probably not going to bet it either.
Yeah, no, I'm into tennis a little bit too. I mean, I'm a big tennis fan. I play a lot of tennis, so more around the majors. I don't bet week to week on the different tournaments when the majors come around. Whether it's a futures bet on someone winning it all or going through. And I find there's a lot of value on the men's side in the first couple rounds, trying to get guys that are going to win 3 sets to love and different things like that. And I know enough about tennis that I feel comfortable making those picks and finding underdogs as well. So yeah, for me, it's strictly sports that I have a passion for and I'm going to watch and log into, or at least pay attention and read up on it and know who the players are. I find it's just tough to kind of throw ideas around when you don't really know, teams or players or what's going on, or even the makeup of how the season works. Cause there's a lot of leagues that you could think that you're throwing money on, top teams playing each other, and then you find out the game didn't mean anything and nobody important was playing and you've just wasted money. So try and stay away from that.
They gave great advice there, no question. Focusing on sports where you're interested in, you follow them, you're able to watch them. I definitely agree. That's definitely a good way to go about it, no question. One last thing I wanted to mention about Vegas because I just brought up the standings. Now it's true. This is a big homestand coming up for them. They have the second wild card. Them and Nashville have the two wild cards. Vegas is at 68 points. They've got Dallas and Vancouver both 1 point behind them. Winnipeg 2 points behind them. Anaheim 3 points behind them. They're that close to being out. right now of the playoffs. So this is a huge, huge homestand coming up for the Vegas Golden Knights, and we'll see if they can make the most of it. We're going to wrap up in a couple minutes, I promise. We've already kept Brett enough, but we thank him. We're going to have him back. He wants to come back. We're going to try to get him back on the show every couple of weeks the rest of the season. But I want to mention something about the soccer, because I know you mentioned soccer. It's something you follow, Premier League, what Canada's doing. I've, for years, despised soccer, hated it. There's so much I could say that bothers me about the sport. First of all, the flopping, I can't take it. It's enough. It bothers me. Just the embellishment, it just drives me nuts. I find that when teams get a 1-0 lead, especially the teams that really rely on defense, they're just trying to milk the clock and trying to just pass the ball around their own half. And they're really trying to really draws the game. You can get bored. I got to admit, some games I can get bored stiff watching some of these soccer matches. That it bothers me. I don't like how an elimination games in a playoffs or a World Cup or a Euro or any of that, Brett, we are determining these games with penalty kick shootouts. I hate that. It's just the goalie's got to guess which side, left or right, and you just got to hope he guess right. That bothers me. Do we? And I always say this about the penalty kick shootout. If you think you love that, how about we just instead in baseball, instead of extra innings, it's 4-4 after the ninth inning. Why don't we just have a home run derby to decide a World Series? You got 5 guys. We'll get 5 guys. Most home runs wins the World Series. Could you imagine that? They're going to burn down basically the offices of Rob Manfred if that ever happened. That would be a travesty. Home run derby going to decide the World Series. What if we have a field goal kicking competition or longest throw in the NFL instead of overtime? Why don't we do it that way? Why don't we do 3-point shootout or a free throw competition or slam dunk contest to decide an NBA champion? Instead of overtime. I don't know what it is. Substitute one player off each team in the extra time in soccer so that there's 12 on 11 on 11, 10 on 10, whatever. Open it up a little bit so that you get a goal. I know you don't want them playing forever in these matches, but there's ways you can get a goal in an extra time in a soccer match. Better percentage to get a goal, better chance to get a goal rather than going to the penalty kick shootout. I think that is a horrible way to decide it, and I think that is a brutal way for a team to have to lose a match. Could you imagine a World Cup final later this year in Qatar, I should say, if we have that situation, a penalty kick to shootout deciding the World Cup champion? I shudder. I cringe just thinking about it. Does that drive you nuts, Brett? It does. To me, you got to find a better way to determine your
Yeah,
champion.
I don't like the way it ends with the shootout, but I mean, I guess if you're on the betting side of it, a lot of times if you've got a championship game, one of the safest bets is to bet that it's going to go to shootout, just the way they play. I think it's probably the worst ending in sports. You watch a lot, especially a lot of times you watch it's one guy misses a net and it's game over, which is tough. But I've really become bigger into soccer over the last couple of years, and I think it's just
Yep.
Premier League has been a big part of it. I like watching club soccer, and then obviously Canada now having success has made me more into the international scene than normal. And on the women's side as well, having the Olympic gold medal, I think was huge to kind of pique my interest. It just seems like perfect timing to be interested in as a Canadian that had a little bit of passion for soccer before.
Yeah, and as much as I just, ridiculed soccer for a bunch of things, I will be the first to admit I've watched every Canadian qualifying match the last several months, and I've been into it. I actually have been into it. I've been excited. I've been enjoying it. You might think, Ian, that is impossible. You have been killing soccer for your entire life, 30 years, and now all of a sudden you're this big soccer fan. I got into Canada in these World Cup qualifying matches. I will admit I enjoyed them. I think they've got a great thing going. They've got all these young players with Davies and company there, and they're only going to get better. They've got a very, very good young group. Jonathan David. I mean, you go on down the list. The goalkeeper's outstanding as well. That they've got Borjan is his name. He's just Canada's got something going finally. For the first time, they've got a solid national program on the men's side, and it's cool to see it. And I'm getting into soccer more because of it. And I'm sure that's happening now, Brett, because of this run, that you're seeing more Canadians get into soccer because of what this national team is doing. They are going to make the World Cup for the first time since 1986. I was 1 year old, Brett, one. That's how old I was. I was 1 year old in 1986, the last time they made the World Cup. So believe me, everybody in this country is ready to see it happen.
Yeah, I think it's time, and then obviously with them hosting in 2026 with the U.S. and Mexico, just an exciting time to be around soccer. I think with the Blue Jays getting hot again this summer, the Raptors have had so much success. It's an exciting time for sports in general in Canada, and obviously being from Toronto for myself, it's been a great time to be living in this area. I'm not a Leaf fan. From my days as a kid, I was a Habs fan, so for me, them not having success
Actually refreshing to hear that.
doesn't hurt my feelings too much. But obviously living in Toronto, if they can have success and make a playoff run, the buzz in the city, it's always great to be around for that too. So, special time to be a sports fan in Canada, special time to be a sports fan in Toronto. So, enjoying the ride as much as I can with all the different teams and different sports. And I know for myself, growing up, hockey was always number one. Played a little lacrosse, played soccer, but then when I went to the OHL, everything kind of goes to the back burner. And then since being retired, I've kind of rekindled some passions in tennis and baseball, and now a little bit with basketball, and then obviously now with soccer. So it's been great to be a part of this run and have some successful teams in my generation.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember actually because I watched junior hockey a lot too. You're an Oshawa General way back in the day. He actually dropped the gloves a few times, which is good. Which, by the way, but we got to get some of our old friends that have been on the show in the past back on here. We miss Grant Arnold. We miss Devin Didiometti. We got to get him back on the show again. I haven't seen that guy in a year. He's playing over in Germany. He's just texted me the other day. He's going to come back for the playoffs. So we're going to get him on the show again for sure. But no, I definitely you had a dropped the mitts a couple of times. So that was good back in your playing days. So I like that. You've got that element has to remain in hockey. You've got to have some semblance of fighting in hockey, in my opinion. You just can't outlaw it altogether, in my opinion. Are you on board with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always a part of it in the game. I think, um, with research and concussions and everything, I think they've realized that the stage fighting needed to go. We don't need guys fighting 40 times a year um, for their long-term health, and it doesn't really. I know some fans come and they wanted to watch that, but for the better of the game, it doesn't really. I don't think it brings a lot of value. But when they're battling in the corners or games are chippy or something happens, there needs to be a way for the game to police itself. It's always been there. It's a way to keep guys honest. So, in my opinion, there is always a spot for it. I think it was the right time to kind of move stage fighting out of the game and let it be more organic to what we're doing. And it's great to see a guy that can put up 20, 30 goals and also drop the Mets 5 times, 10 times a year. I think those are the kind of players that we appreciated in my day growing up, and when they're still here today, it's exciting to see them, and I think a lot of fans really love them, and hopefully they're never gone from the game.
Yeah, no question about that. That's definitely good points made about that. And yeah, it's like I say, the player that can do multiple things, not just there to drop the gloves and fight. You don't have players like that anymore. You've got to be able to play the game at a high level, do other things, kill penalties, score a little bit, chip in offensively, be a versatile, multifaceted player now. And that's definitely been the big change from, say, 20, 30 years ago. All right, we are going to wrap it up. We're going to have best bets to wrap up the show now in just a sec. Before we get to those, a reminder, DraftKings Sportsbook, official sports betting partner of the NHL. Make sure you get involved and sign up with them. New customers can bet just $1 on any NHL team and get $150 in free bets if they win. That's right. A bump in the win column for your team means free bets for you. If DraftKings Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you still have a shot to light the lamp. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes with DraftKings daily fantasy hockey contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet just $1 on any NHL team and get $150 in free bets if they win. That's promo code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Must be 21 years of age or older. Must reside in a DraftKings Sportsbook state. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Download the DraftKings app, sign up for an account, and use the promo code THPN. All right. First time on the show, Brett, on the Ice Guys, and your first chance to give us a best bet for the Thursday card. What would you like to go with for your first ever Ice Guys best bet?
I'm going to go Philadelphia Flyers, plus 155 money line. I think, like I said, Claude Giroux's 1,000th game, probably his last game as a Flyer. I think they're going to come out at home hot, and I think that's going to be a win for them.
All right, Philadelphia Flyers plus 155 against the Nashville Predators. Claude Giroux's 1,000th NHL game. Brett McLean going dog hunting here for his first Ice Guys best bet on this Thursday. Philadelphia plus 155 against Nashville for his best bet. My best bet is going to be, I'm going to go with, in this one here tonight, I'm going to go Washington Columbus over 6.5. I really like this one. I mean, both teams trending toward the over lately. I think you're going to see more of the same tonight with these two teams. The Capitals have found their offense in recent games. Columbus still more of a team that they're better offensively than they are defensively. They're a little leaky at the back end. We don't know who's in net for Columbus. It might be Merzlikins even on a back-to-back, but if it is him again, it's always tough for goalies that second night of a back-to-back. And if it's Jonas Korpisalo instead, that might be even better because his numbers are dreadful this year for the Blue Jackets. Either way, I like goals in this game. Capitals, Blue Jackets, over 6.5 for my best bet on this Thursday NHL card. That'll wrap it up. We thank Brett McLean. And by the way, what's your Twitter handle? Again, it's at MacAttack_39. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
There we go. Follow him on Twitter. If you see a bunch of new followers, Brett, it's the Ice Guys family that are basically following you. We got a bunch of them. So give that man a follow. Brett McLean. He'll be back on the show every couple of weeks at MacAttack_39 on Twitter. You can follow Brett McLean. Brett, you hit a home run out of the park in your very first appearance, and we thank you very much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate the time. I'm looking forward to coming back.
Absolutely. And with that in mind, that's a wrap. Thanks to everyone in the chat on YouTube for joining us. Hit the like button on the way out. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. Download the Ice Guys podcast whenever you can't watch the show live. For our special guest, Brett McLean, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Thursday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we'll talk to you again tomorrow on Friday for another edition of the Ice Guys presented by the Hockey Podcast Network.